Muscular billionaire finds out. Surrogate is a virgin. What he did next changed everything. Hi viewers, don't scroll past this. Your heart led you here for a reason. Beautiful souls, I'm Mr. Daniel, and this isn't just a channel. It's your family. Today's story might be exactly what your soul needed to hear. If you feel the calling, comment, "I'm ready, Mr. Daniel," and let's begin this journey together. Your one comment keeps our family's heartbeat alive. Don't just watch. Become part of something greater. Now listen closely. The billionaire who trusted no woman sat across from the virgin who had lied to save her brother's life. And what he did next would rewrite everything both of them believed about love, sacrifice, and destiny. She expected lawyers. She expected rage. She expected a powerful man to crush her for her deception. Instead, Derek Hamilton pulled his chair closer, looked into her tear-filled eyes, and said 7 words that shattered 20 years of walls. "Tell me everything about your brother." But neither of them knew that someone in that clinic was recording every word. And within 48 hours, a twisted version of this moment would be weaponized to destroy them both, leaked by someone Derek trusted with his life. What would you do if the only way to save your dying brother was to sell the one thing you'd protected your entire life? Have you ever been so desperate that you considered crossing a line you swore you'd never cross? Have you watched someone you love suffer while the solution sat just out of reach? Destiny Williams faced that impossible choice. And the lie she told to survive brought her face to face with a billionaire who had every reason to destroy her. But he didn't. Why did Derek Hamilton, a man betrayed by every woman he ever trusted, protect a stranger who had just deceived him? The answer will shake you. But the betrayal waiting at the end of this story? That will shatter you. Stay with me through every chapter. This story has twists you won't see coming, secrets that span 2 decades, and an ending that will make you believe in something bigger than coincidence. And if you're watching this without subscribing, ask yourself this: what happens when the next chapter drops and you miss the moment everything changes? Subscribe now. Don't be the one who finds out too late. Now let me take you back to where destiny, the real kind, started writing a story neither of them expected. She had protected one thing for 26 years. And today, in a sterile clinic that smelled like money and secrets, she was ready to trade it for her brother's life. Destiny Williams sat in the waiting room of Hamilton Fertility Partners in Palm Beach, Florida. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. The photograph of Terrence pressed against her palm, edges worn soft from months of holding it during sleepless nights. 17 years old, head bald from chemotherapy, still smiling like he believed everything would be okay. She needed him to be right. The waiting room gleamed with the kind of elegance that whispered wealth. Marble floors polished to mirrors, leather chairs that probably cost more than her monthly rent, a silence so thick it felt like judgment. 300 miles away in Atlanta, her baby brother lay in a hospital bed at Emory University while poison dripped through his veins. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Stage 3. The doctors used words like aggressive and experimental treatment and $500,000. $500,000. Destiny worked 2 jobs. Hospital receptionist by day, online tutor by night. She ate ramen noodles 4 days a week and hadn't bought new shoes in 2 years. $500,000 might as well have been 500 million. But then she found the surrogacy listing. Hamilton Fertility Partners. Compensation package of $500,000 for qualified candidates. Medical expenses covered. Psychological support provided. It felt like the universe had finally answered her prayers. until she read the fine print. Preferred candidates will have prior intimate experience. Psychological evaluations indicate that candidates without such experience may struggle with the emotional complexity of surrogacy. Destiny had stared at that line for 3 hours. She had never been with anyone. Not because of religion, not because of fear, because she had watched her mother raise 2 children alone after a man who promised forever vanished before Terrence was even born. Gloria Williams had worked double shifts at Detroit General Hospital until her heart gave out 6 years ago. She had taught Destiny one lesson above all others. You help people, baby. That's what Williams women do. But you never sell yourself short. Destiny had kept that promise for 26 years. Now she was about to break it. She had lied on the application. Checked the box that said she had prior experience. Told herself that artificial insemination wasn't really giving anything away. Told herself that carrying a stranger's child for 9 months was just a job. Told herself that her mother would understand. But sitting in this waiting room, surrounded by wealth she would never touch and judgment she could almost taste, Destiny felt her mother's voice fading under the weight of desperate math. $500,000. Terrence's life, her innocence. The numbers didn't lie, even if she did. A nurse appeared in the doorway. Blonde hair, perfect makeup. Clipboard pressed against a chest that had probably never known hunger. Destiny Williams? Destiny stood. Her legs felt hollow. She thought about the first time she held Terrence when he was born. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Tiny fingers wrapped around her thumb. She had been 9 years old, and she had promised him right then that she would always protect him. She was keeping that promise, even if it cost her everything else. The nurse smiled with professional warmth. Right this way. Dr. Patterson is ready for the preliminary examination. Destiny followed her down a corridor lined with doors. Each one closed, each one hiding someone else's desperate bargain with fate. She wondered how many other women had walked this hallway carrying secrets they couldn't afford to tell. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from Terrence. They said the new treatment is working. I'm gonna beat this thing, sis. Love you. Destiny's eyes burned. She blinked hard and kept walking. The nurse stopped at room 7. You can change into the gown inside. The doctor will be with you shortly. Destiny nodded. Her voice had abandoned her somewhere between the waiting room and this moment. She stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind her. The room was cold. White walls, white floor. A medical table covered in paper that crinkled when she sat down. A window overlooking a parking lot full of cars that cost more than her apartment. She changed into the hospital gown, paper thin, open in the back. The most expensive outfit she had ever worn, and it made her feel more naked than anything in her life. Destiny sat on the edge of the table and pulled Terrence's photograph from her purse. His smile steadied her. She thought about what it would feel like to actually be with someone. Not a procedure, not a transaction, someone who wanted her. Someone who saw her as more than a vessel for their legacy. She had wondered about it sometimes, late at night when loneliness pressed against her ribs. What it would feel like to be touched by hands that trembled with wanting her. What it would sound like to hear her name spoken like a prayer instead of a line item on a contract. But those thoughts were luxuries she couldn't afford. Terrence needed her. The door opened. Ms. Williams, I'm Dr. Patterson. I'll be conducting your preliminary examination before we proceed. Destiny nodded. Her fingers tightened around the photograph. This would be a transaction. Nothing more. She would carry a stranger's child, collect the fee, save her brother, and walk away with her heart still intact. But the universe had other plans. Because the man whose child she was about to carry had just walked into the building, and he was about to discover a secret that would change everything. What would you sacrifice for someone you love? Your pride? Your dreams? The one thing you've kept sacred? Tell me in the comments. How far would you go before you crossed your own line? Derek Hamilton trusted concrete and steel. Buildings didn't betray you. Skyscrapers didn't wake up one morning and decide your love wasn't enough. The black Bentley pulled into Hamilton Fertility Partners at exactly 2:45 in the afternoon. Derek stepped out alone. No driver, no assistant, no witnesses. This part of his life stayed surgically private. He paused at the clinic's glass doors, catching his own reflection. 6'4", 230 pounds of muscle wrapped in a gray suit that cost more than most people's monthly salary. Jaws set like granite. Eyes that had learned to see betrayal coming from a mile away, except when it came from the people closest to him. He had stopped trusting those people a long time ago. Derek walked through the entrance, nodded at the receptionist who scrambled to greet him, then made his way to the private consultation wing. Dr. Patterson would meet him there. They would review the final paperwork, and in 30 minutes, his heir would begin existence in a petri dish. Clean, clinical, safe, no emotions, no complications, no woman who could wake up one day and decide he wasn't enough. The memory hit him without warning. Rebecca, college sweetheart, the first woman he ever loved, the first woman who ever made him believe that someone could see past his poverty, his calloused hands, his mother's medical bills piling up like accusations. She had held his face in her hands the night he told her his construction company was going bankrupt. "I don't care about money," she had whispered. "I care about you." 1 week later, she left with his best friend Marcus. Derek found out through a text message. He had stood in his empty apartment, phone in hand, and felt something inside him calcify. Turned to stone, a wall that went up brick by brick until no one could see the boy from Detroit anymore. Only the billionaire remained. And then there was Vivian, 3 years ago. Boston socialite with a smile that could melt ice and a touch that made him forget, just for a moment, that he had sworn never to trust again. He had proposed on a rooftop overlooking the harbor. She had cried. He had believed those tears were real. 6 months later, his accountant found the wire transfers, $80,000, funneled to an account belonging to Vivian's ex-boyfriend, a boyfriend she had never actually stopped seeing. Derek had confronted her calmly. No yelling, no accusations. Just a quiet question. "How long?" She had smiled. Actually smiled. "Since the beginning. But don't feel bad, darling. You were always just a transaction." He had walked away from that rooftop and never looked back. Now, 3 years later, Derek Hamilton had everything a man could want. Towers that touched clouds, a bank account that made other billionaires jealous, a body he had sculpted through discipline because it was the only thing he could control completely. But at 38 years old, he had no heir, no legacy, no one to inherit the empire he had built from nothing but calloused hands and relentless ambition. So he had hired Hamilton Fertility Partners. $3 million for a carefully vetted surrogate. Artificial insemination, no emotional attachment, no complications. Just a business transaction that would give him the one thing his money couldn't buy. A family. Derek settled into the consultation room and opened the file for candidate 247 one final time. Destiny Williams, 26 years old, college educated, works as a hospital receptionist. Motivation for surrogacy, medical expenses for family member. He had approved her without requesting a meeting. The less personal involvement, the better. Emotions complicated transactions, and Derek Hamilton was done with complications. A nurse passed by the window. Attractive. Her eyes lingered on his chest a moment too long. Derek felt nothing. He remembered what Vivian's hands had felt like on his skin, how electric her touch had been before he learned it was all performance, how empty his bed had felt ever since. 3 years without intimacy, 3 years of building his body into a fortress that no woman would ever breach again. Maybe holding his own child would fill the void that no woman ever could. Dr. Patterson knocked once and entered. "Mr. Hamilton, everything is in order. We're ready to proceed with the preliminary examination of your surrogate, and then we can begin the insemination process this afternoon." Derek nodded. "Good. Let's get this done." He signed the final consent form, handed it back, felt the familiar sense of control that came with every completed transaction. In 30 minutes, his heir would begin existence, carried by a woman he would never need to meet, never need to trust, never need to love. Clean, clinical, safe. But then Dr. Patterson's pager buzzed. The doctor glanced at it, and his face changed. Color draining, jaw tightening. "Mr. Hamilton," he said quietly, "we have a situation. I need to speak with you privately." Derek's chest tightened. What kind of situation? The doctor hesitated. That hesitation told Derek everything he needed to know. Something had gone wrong. "It's about your surrogate, sir. There's been a discovery during the preliminary examination." Derek rose from his chair. Every muscle in his body tensed. "What discovery?" Dr. Patterson swallowed hard. "Mr. Hamilton, your surrogate, Destiny Williams, she's a virgin. She lied on her application. She broke down during the examination and confessed everything." The words hit Derek like a physical blow. A virgin. She had lied. Everything he thought he knew about this clean, clinical transaction was built on deception. His first instinct was rage. Call the lawyers. Sue her into oblivion. Make an example out of anyone who thought they could deceive Derek Hamilton. But then Dr. Patterson said something else. "She's in room 7, sir. She's terrified, crying. She kept talking about her brother. Something about cancer treatment. She said she had no other choice." No other choice. Derek heard those words, and something cracked in the wall he had built around his heart. He thought about his mother. How many times had she said those same words? No other choice. When she worked double shifts, when she skipped meals so he could eat, when she pawned her wedding ring to pay for his school supplies. Before his lawyers could intervene, before his business instincts could take over, Derek Hamilton did something that shocked everyone in that clinic, including himself. He walked toward room 7. Have you ever built walls so high that you forgot what it felt like to let someone in? Have you ever been hurt so deeply that you decided trust wasn't worth the risk? Drop a in the comments if you've been there. And if you're still watching but haven't subscribed, you're about to miss the moment these two broken people collide. The next chapter changes everything. Subscribe now, because what happens in that procedure room will make you believe in something you've given up on. She had lied to save her brother. Now, sitting on a medical table in a paper gown, Destiny Williams watched her entire plan collapse. And the billionaire she'd deceived was walking straight toward her. The door to room 7 opened. Destiny stopped breathing. She had expected a lawyer, maybe 2. She had expected security guards to escort her out. She had expected the cold machinery of wealth to grind her into dust for daring to deceive a man who could buy her entire neighborhood without checking his bank balance. She had not expected Derek Hamilton himself. 6 feet 4 inches of tailored fury. That's what she thought when he stepped through the doorway. Shoulders so broad they seemed to fill the frame. Jaw carved from stone. Eyes that could cut through steel. This was the man she had tried to deceive. This was the end. But he didn't tower over her. Didn't unleash the rage she could see simmering beneath his controlled expression. Instead, Derek grabbed a plastic chair from the corner and dragged it across the floor. The screech made her flinch. He placed it directly in front of her and sat down. Their knees almost touched. His eyes weren't cold. They were searching. Room 7 smelled like antiseptic and shattered dreams. Destiny sat on the edge of the medical table, bare feet dangling above the floor, the paper gown of flimsy armor against the consequences sitting 3 feet away. Her fingers clutched Terrence's photograph like it could save her. "I should call my lawyers," Derek said. His voice was low, controlled, dangerous. Destiny's heart hammered against her ribs. "You lied on a legally binding contract. I could bury you in lawsuits, take everything you have, make sure you never work again." She believed him, every word. But something her mother taught her rose up through the fear. Williams' women don't beg, they stand. Destiny lifted her chin, tears still wet on her cheeks, voice steady despite the terror clawing at her throat. "Then bury me. But my brother lives either way. So do what you have to do." Something flickered in Derek's expression. Surprise, maybe, or something deeper. He leaned back slightly, studied her face like he was trying to solve a puzzle. "The agency profile said you needed money for family medical expenses. Your brother?" Destiny nodded. Her voice cracked. "Terrence. He's 17. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Stage 3. The doctors say there's an experimental treatment at Emory that could save him. But it costs $500,000. Insurance won't cover it. And I've already sold everything I have." She looked down at the photograph in her hands. "He's the only family I have left. Our mom died 6 years ago. Heart attack. She worked herself to death trying to take care of us." Destiny felt the tears coming again, but refused to let them fall. "I know I lied. I know what I did was wrong. But when I found that surrogacy listing and saw the payment was exactly what Terrence needed, I thought it was a sign. I thought maybe God was finally giving us a break." She laughed bitterly. "Guess I was wrong." Derek said nothing. His expression had shifted, but Destiny couldn't read it. The mask he wore was too good, built from years of practice. Then he asked a question she didn't expect. "Your mother, what did she do for work?" Destiny blinked. She was a nurse at Detroit General Hospital. Worked there for almost 20 years before she got a job in Georgia. Derek's entire body went rigid. "Detroit General," he repeated slowly. "Yeah, she loved it there. Said the patients needed her. Even when the administration didn't appreciate her. Even when she had to work double shifts because they were always understaffed, she stayed because..." What was her name? The sharpness in his voice made Destiny stop. "What?" Derek leaned forward. His hands gripped his knees. His eyes burned with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "Your mother. What was her name?" "Gloria," Destiny whispered. "Gloria Williams. Why? Did you know her?" Derek stood so abruptly that his chair clattered backward and hit the wall. He walked to the window, pressed his palms against the cold glass. His shoulders rose and fell with deep, uneven breaths. Destiny watched him, confused and terrified in equal measure. "Mr. Hamilton, what's wrong? Did I say something?" 20 years ago, Derek said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I was 18 years old, living in the worst neighborhood in Detroit, working construction during the day and studying business at night. My mother was everything to me, the only person in the world who believed I could be something more than what that city wanted me to be." He turned around. His eyes were wet. "She collapsed one night. Middle of winter. I carried her 8 blocks to the emergency room because the ambulances wouldn't come to our neighborhood. When I got there, the doctors barely looked at us. We were poor. We didn't matter." Destiny's breath caught. "But there was one nurse," Derek continued. "One nurse who stopped what she was doing and helped us. She stayed 4 hours past her shift to make sure my mother was stable. She brought me a sandwich because I hadn't eaten in 2 days. She treated us like we were human beings when everyone else treated us like trash." He took a step toward Destiny. "Her name was Gloria Williams, and I never got the chance to thank her for saving my mother's life." The room tilted. Destiny stared at Derek Hamilton, billionaire, man of steel, and saw something impossible in his eyes. Gratitude. "Your mother saved my mother," Derek said quietly. "And now you're sitting in front of me, willing to give up everything you've protected your whole life to save your brother, the same way she gave up her time to save a stranger." Tears spilled down Destiny's cheeks. She couldn't stop them. "I tried to find her," Derek continued. "Years later, I wanted to pay her back, thank her properly. But she had moved. And then I found out she had passed away." He moved closer. Close enough that Destiny could see the scar on his left hand. Close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body. "I owed Gloria Williams a debt I could never repay. Until now." Have you ever had someone see past your mistakes to the desperation underneath? Someone who could have destroyed you, but chose to understand instead? Share your story in the comments. 20 years ago, a nurse worked a double shift to save a stranger's mother. Now that stranger stood before her daughter, realizing that Destiny had been writing this story long before either of them knew their names. Derek pressed his palms against the cold window of room 7. Outside, palm trees swayed in the Florida breeze. Inside, the past and present collided with a force that left him struggling to breathe. Gloria Williams. He could still see her face. Tired eyes that somehow stayed kind, scrubs that had seen too many shifts, hands that moved with confidence and compassion while other nurses walked past like his mother was invisible. "The doctor said she had pneumonia," Derek said, his back still to Destiny. "They said it was too advanced. They said to prepare for the worst." He turned around. "Your mother told them they were wrong. She stayed by her bedside all night, monitored her vitals every 30 minutes, argued with the attending physician when he tried to discharge her too early." Destiny's tears fell silently. She had heard pieces of this story before. Her mother had mentioned difficult shifts, patients she worried about, nights she came home too exhausted to eat. But she had never connected those stories to anyone specific. Now she was sitting in front of one. "When my mother finally stabilized," Derek continued, "Gloria sat with me in the waiting room. 3 in the morning. She should have gone home hours ago, but she sat with me and asked about my life, my dreams, my plans." He laughed softly. "I told her I was going to build skyscrapers, that I was going to make enough money to get my mother out of that neighborhood and into a house where she could see the sun rise without worrying about what might come through the window." His jaw tightened. She didn't laugh at me. Everyone else did. My teachers, my neighbors, even my mother sometimes, though she tried to hide it. But Gloria Williams looked at me like I'd said the most reasonable thing in the world. He met Destiny's eyes. She said, "Some people are built different. They carry weight that would crush other folks. You're one of those people. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Destiny pressed her hand to her mouth. "That's what she always said," she whispered. Those exact words. She said them to Terrence when he was first diagnosed. She said them to me when I told her I was going to put myself through college while working full-time. Derek nodded slowly. She gave me something that night. Something I'd never had before. Belief. And I carried it with me through every failure, every setback, every person who told me I'd never make it out of Detroit. He gestured at his tailored suit, the clinic around them, the empire waiting outside. All of this started with your mother, with a nurse who saw a scared kid in a waiting room and decided he was worth her time. Destiny stood from the medical table. Her legs were unsteady, but she needed to move. Needed to process what was happening. She walked toward Derek, stopped a few feet away. "I didn't know," she said. "I had no idea she—" "How could you?" Derek replied. "She probably helped hundreds of people the same way. Thousands, maybe. That's who she was." Destiny thought about all the nights her mother came home late, too tired to do anything but collapse into bed. All the times Gloria had said she couldn't quit because someone needed her. All the birthday parties and school events she'd missed because a patient was critical and she couldn't leave. Her mother had been a hero to strangers. And one of those strangers was standing in front of her now, looking at Destiny like she had given him a gift instead of telling him a lie. "I wanted to find her," Derek said again. "When I made my first $1 million, I hired a private investigator. But she had moved to Georgia by then. Different hospital, different life." "We moved when I was 16, Destiny confirmed. "She got a better offer at a hospital in Macon. Said she needed a change of scenery after." She trailed off. "After what?" "After my father left." The words hung between them. Derek's expression hardened. Not at her. At the mention of a man who would abandon a woman like Gloria Williams. "He disappeared a few months before Terrence was born," Destiny continued. "Promised he'd be back. Never was. Mom raised us alone. Worked herself into an early grave, trying to give us a better life." She looked at the photograph still clutched in her hand. "She died when I was 20. Heart attack at work. They said she'd been having symptoms for months, but kept ignoring them because she didn't want to miss shifts." Derek closed his eyes. "I found out 6 months after it happened," he said quietly. "By then, it was too late to even attend the funeral. I sent flowers to the cemetery. Anonymous. I didn't know if she had family who would wonder who I was." Destiny stared at him. "You sent flowers to my mother's grave?" "Every year since. On the anniversary of the night she saved my mother." Something broke open in Destiny's chest. A dam she didn't know existed. She stepped closer to Derek, close enough to touch him. "You didn't know me," she whispered. "You didn't know anything about me except that I lied on a contract. But you walked in here ready to listen. Why?" Derek looked down at her. The professional mask had crumbled. What remained was something raw, something human. "Because when Dr. Patterson told me you were desperate, I heard my mother's voice. I heard Gloria's voice. I heard every person who ever did something impossible because love gave them no other choice." His hand rose, hovered near her face, then dropped to his side. I don't know how to trust women, Destiny. I've been burned too many times. But I know how to recognize sacrifice when I see it. And what you were willing to do for your brother, that's not deception. That's love. Destiny's heart pounded. Her skin felt electric. This man, this billionaire who had every reason to destroy her, was looking at her like she was something sacred. She touched his arm, felt muscle tense beneath the expensive fabric. He didn't pull away. They stood like that for a long moment. Two strangers connected by a debt that spanned decades. Two broken people recognizing their own wounds in each other's eyes. Then Derek cleared his throat and stepped back. The spell shattered, but something had shifted. The room felt different now. Smaller, warmer, like the walls had moved closer without either of them noticing. Do you believe in connections that span decades? In debts repaid by the universe in ways we never expect? Tell me, have you ever discovered that a stranger was connected to your past in a way that felt like fate? And if you leave now without subscribing, you'll miss the moment this connection catches fire. You'll miss the sacrifice Derek makes next. You'll miss the betrayal that's coming. Subscribe, because the universe brought you to this story for a reason, and you don't want to be the person who walked away before the miracle. She had been offered a miracle, and her first instinct was to refuse it. Derek Hamilton had never met a woman who didn't want his money, until Destiny Williams looked him dead in the eye and called his generosity an insult. Derek stood in the center of room 7. Decision made. Here's what's going to happen, he said. I'm paying for Terrence's treatment, all of it. The experimental procedure at Emory, the hospital bills, everything. Destiny's face went pale. I'm tearing up the surrogacy contract, Derek continued. You're going to walk out of this clinic owing me absolutely nothing. Consider it a debt repaid to your mother. He expected tears of gratitude, maybe a hug. Maybe the same look of relief he'd seen on his own mother's face when the hospital bills finally stopped coming. Instead, Destiny's expression hardened. No. Derek blinked. Excuse me? I said no. She pushed herself off the medical table and stood to face him. Paper gown, bare feet, mascara tracking down her cheeks, and a spine made of steel. I didn't come here for charity, Mr. Hamilton. I came here to earn money for my brother's treatment. If I can't do that through surrogacy, then I'll find another way. But I'm not taking a handout from someone I just met, no matter what my mother did for you 20 years ago. Derek stared at her. In his entire adult life, he had never met a woman who refused his money. Not once. Women looked at his bank account and saw opportunity. They smiled brighter when he mentioned his net worth. They touched his arm and asked about his investments. But Destiny Williams stood in front of him like his billions were an insult. Do you understand what you're turning down? Derek asked slowly. Your brother is dying. I'm offering to save his life. Free and clear, no strings attached. There are always strings, Destiny shot back. Maybe not today, maybe not next month. But eventually, you'd look at me and see a charity case. Someone who couldn't handle her own problems. Someone who needed rescuing. Her voice cracked, but she didn't look away. I've been saving myself since I was 19 years old, Mr. Hamilton. I buried my mother. I raised my brother. I worked 2 jobs while putting myself through school. I didn't do all of that just to end up in someone's debt. Derek felt something unfamiliar stir in his chest. Respect. What would you suggest instead? he asked. Because right now, your brother needs treatment he can't afford, and you're standing here turning down the only solution on the table. Then find me a different solution. Like what? Destiny's eyes blazed. A job. A real job. Something that pays enough to cover Terrence's treatment over time. Something I can earn. Not something you hand me because you feel guilty about a nurse who helped you 2 decades ago. Derek laughed. Actually laughed. Destiny's expression shifted from defiance to confusion. What's so funny? You, Derek said, shaking his head. You're standing in a paper gown, broke, desperate, with your brother's life on the line, and you're negotiating with a billionaire like you're the one with leverage. Do I have leverage? Derek met her eyes. More than you know. He walked to the window, looked out at the parking lot where his Bentley waited, thought about every woman who had taken his money and left, thought about Rebecca and her text message, Vivian and her wire transfers, every transaction disguised as love. Then he thought about Gloria Williams, working double shifts, staying late for strangers, teaching her daughter that dignity mattered more than survival. He turned back to Destiny. Hamilton Development is launching a new initiative. Affordable housing in underserved communities. We need someone who understands those communities. Someone who can connect with residents, gather feedback, build trust. Destiny's eyes narrowed. You're offering me a job. I'm offering you a position as Community Outreach Coordinator. Salary of $120,000 a year. Benefits included. Enough to cover your brother's treatment over time while you work. He paused. You earn every dollar. You owe me nothing. And you report to HR, not to me. Professional boundaries maintained. Destiny stared at him for a long moment. Why? She asked finally. Why go through all this? You could have called your lawyers. You could have buried me and moved on to the next surrogate. Why does it matter to you whether I earn the money or accept a handout? Derek considered the question. Because every woman I've ever been with took whatever I offered and asked for more. They saw my bank account and saw an opportunity. They saw my success and saw a ladder to climb. He took a step toward her. You looked at $500,000 and called it an insult. You looked at a man who could destroy your life and told him to do his worst. You're the first woman in 20 years who's made me feel like something other than a checkbook. The air between them thickened. They were standing close now. Close enough for Destiny to see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Close enough for Derek to count the freckles scattered across her nose. I don't trust women, he said quietly. I stopped trusting them a long time ago. But I trust strength. I trust people who fight for what they love instead of selling it. His gaze dropped to her lips, then back up. Take the job, Destiny. Let me repay my debt to your mother without turning you into someone who needed rescuing. Because you're not that person. I can see it in your eyes. Destiny's breath caught. She thought about Terrence. About the treatment that could save his life. About the bills that multiplied every day like a curse she couldn't escape. She thought about her mother's voice. Williams women don't beg. They stand. Fine, she said. I'll take the job, but I have conditions. Derek raised an eyebrow. Professional boundaries, like you said. I report to HR, not to you. No special treatment. No one at the company knows about today. As far as anyone's concerned, I'm a regular hire who went through the normal process. Done. And I keep my apartment, my car, my life. I don't move into some penthouse you own. I don't become one of your projects. Agreed. Destiny extended her hand. Then we have a deal, Mr. Hamilton. Derek looked at her hand. Small, strong, calloused in places that spoke of hard work. He took it. His palm was rough despite his wealth, scarred from construction days that never fully left him. Their handshake lasted 3 seconds too long. Neither wanted to be the first to let go. When they finally separated, something had shifted. The room felt different, charged, like the air before a storm. "Monday," Derek said. 8 a.m., Hamilton Tower, 47th floor, don't be late. "I'm never late." He almost smiled. "I believe you." They walked out of Hamilton Fertility Partners side by side, but separately. No eye contact, no small talk. Just two people pretending they hadn't just shifted each other's gravity. Destiny's phone buzzed as she reached her car. A text from an unknown number. "Monday, 8 a.m. Hamilton Tower, 47th floor. Don't be late." She stared at the message, heart pounding with something that wasn't anxiety. It felt like anticipation. But 300 miles away, in a dark room lit only by computer screens, someone else stared at footage from the clinic's security cameras. Footage of Derek Hamilton walking into room 7. Footage of their argument. Footage of a handshake that lasted too long. The figure smiled. Fingers flew across a keyboard. This, they thought, is going to be worth millions. And Derek Hamilton's most trusted employee saved the file that would eventually burn both their worlds to the ground. What's the difference between charity and respect? Between pity and partnership? Have you ever refused help because accepting it felt like admitting you couldn't survive alone? Share your thoughts below. And remember, beautiful souls, this story is just beginning. The fire is about to ignite. The walls are about to crumble. And the betrayal waiting in the shadows? It's closer than you think. I'm Mr. Daniel, and I'll see you in the next chapter. She had walked into buildings her whole life through service entrances and side doors. Today, Destiny Williams walked through the front, and every eye in Hamilton Tower turned to watch her arrive. The lobby stretched before her like a cathedral built for money. 30-foot ceilings, marble floors polished to glass, a waterfall feature that probably cost more than every car in her apartment complex combined. Destiny straightened her blazer. Thrift store, but well-tailored. Her mother had taught her to walk into any room like she owned it, even when she didn't. Especially when she didn't. She approached the security desk. A guard with shoulders like a linebacker looked up from his computer. "Destiny Williams, I'm starting today. Community Outreach Coordinator." He checked his screen. His eyebrows rose slightly. 47th floor. Miss Vance is expecting you. The elevator ride felt like ascending into another universe. Each floor that passed represented another layer of wealth, another degree of separation from the world Destiny knew. By the time the doors opened on 47, she had to remind herself to breathe. The floor hummed with the frequency of power. Keyboards clicking like whispered secrets. Phones ringing with million-dollar consequences. Everywhere the scent of fresh coffee and barely contained ambition. Her heels clicked against marble that reflected her approach like a mirror. She saw a version of herself she didn't recognize. A woman who belonged in rooms like this. Maybe. "Ms. Williams." The voice was cool, professional, edged with something that felt like a warning. Destiny turned. A woman in her 40s stood before her, razor-sharp bob. Designer suit, eyes that missed nothing. "I'm Corinne Vance, Mr. Hamilton's executive assistant. I'll be giving you your orientation." They shook hands. Corinne's grip was firm, assessing. "Follow me." The tour took 45 minutes. Conference rooms with views of the Miami skyline, A cafeteria that served food Destiny couldn't pronounce. Break rooms nicer than her living room. And everywhere, glass walls. Everyone could see everyone. No secrets in a building made of transparency. Except, Destiny thought, the secrets people carried inside themselves. Your office is here, Corinne said, stopping at a small room near the end of the floor. It's modest compared to the executive suites, but the view is exceptional. Destiny stepped inside. A desk, a computer, a chair that probably cost $500, and a window overlooking a city she had only ever seen from below. It's perfect, she said quietly. Corinne studied her for a moment. Something flickered in her expression. Not warmth, exactly, but something close to curiosity. Mr. Hamilton doesn't usually involve himself in staffing decisions at this level, Corinne said carefully. The fact that he personally approved your hiring has not gone unnoticed. Destiny met her eyes. I'm here to do a job, nothing more. That's what they all say. Before Destiny could respond, a voice interrupted them. Corinne, showing our new hire around? A man appeared in the doorway. Mid-40s, handsome in a polished, practiced way, smile bright enough to light a room. But something cold lived behind his eyes. Marcus Webb, he said, extending his hand. Chief Operations Officer. Derek's right hand for the past 5 years. Destiny shook his hand. His grip lingered a beat too long. Destiny Williams. I know. His smile widened. Your reputation precedes you. Derek told me about your community outreach work. Very impressive credentials for someone so young. Thank you. Where did you say you worked before? I didn't. Marcus laughed. The sound felt rehearsed. Fair enough. We should have lunch sometime. I'd love to hear more about your background. Destiny's instincts prickled. Something about his questions felt less like curiosity and more like reconnaissance. But she dismissed it as first-day nerves. I'll check my calendar, she said. Marcus nodded, still smiling, and walked away. Corinne watched him go with an expression Destiny couldn't read. A word of advice, Corinne said quietly. In this building, everyone wants something. Figure out what it is before they figure out what you have. She left before Destiny could ask what that meant. The morning passed in a blur of paperwork and introductions. Names she would forget. Faces she would struggle to place. Everyone polite, everyone professional. Everyone watching her with the kind of attention that made her skin itch. And then, she felt it. A shift in the air. A change in the room's energy. Like the moment before a storm breaks. Destiny looked up. Derek Hamilton had entered the floor. He moved through the space like he owned it. Because he did. Employees straightened. Conversations paused. Everyone suddenly found something urgent to do. He wore charcoal gray today. Suit tailored to his body like a second skin. Shoulders that seemed to fill the corridor. His eyes swept the room. Found her. For 1 second, their gazes locked. He nodded once. Professional. Distant. Then looked away. But Destiny had seen something flicker in his expression. Something he hadn't meant to show. She turned back to her computer. Her heart was pounding. Stop, she told herself. He's your boss. This is a job. Nothing more. But later, during the office tour, she passed a glass window overlooking his private gym. Equipment gleaming under fluorescent lights. A heavy bag hanging in the corner. She imagined him there at 4 a.m, muscles straining, sweat tracking down his chest. The controlled violence of a man working out demons she was only beginning to understand. Her face warmed. When she turned, Corinne was watching her with a knowing smirk. The gym is off limits to most employees, Corinne said smoothly. Just so you know. Destiny said nothing, but she felt the flush spread down her neck. The day ended at 6. The floor emptied gradually. Lights dimmed to evening mode. The city outside transformed into a glittering maze of headlights and neon. Destiny gathered her things: purse, keys, the new employee handbook she would probably never read. She stepped into the elevator. The doors were closing when a hand shot through the gap. Derek stepped inside. 47 floors, just the two of them. The doors slid shut with a soft hiss. Neither spoke. Destiny stared straight ahead. The elevator walls were mirrored. She could see his reflection watching her. Could see the way his jaw tightened, the way his hands flexed at his sides. The numbers descended. 45, 40, 35. The silence grew heavy, thick with everything they weren't saying. Somewhere around the 30th floor, Derek spoke. You did well today? His voice was low, meant only for her. Destiny kept her eyes forward. I didn't do it for your approval. In the reflection, she saw him smile. I know, that's why I'm giving it. 25, 20, 15. The space between them felt charged, electric, like the air before lightning strikes. 10, 5. The elevator reached the lobby. The doors opened. Neither moved. Destiny could feel him behind her, feel the heat radiating from his body, feel the question hanging between them that neither would ask. Finally, she stepped forward, walked through the lobby, pushed through the glass doors into the Miami evening. She didn't look back, but she knew he was watching. And in that suspended moment, Destiny realized the most dangerous thing about Derek Hamilton wasn't his money or his power. It was the way he made her want to stay in small spaces with him forever. Have you ever stepped into a world that wasn't built for you and refused to shrink? Have you ever felt someone watching you before you saw them, like their attention had weight? Tell me in the comments about a moment you walked into a room and changed its energy. She told herself the rules were simple. Do the job, save her brother, keep her distance. But every rule she made, Derek Hamilton found a way to stand exactly on the line. 3 weeks passed. Destiny threw herself into work. Community meetings in Little Haiti. Focus groups in Overtown. Door-to-door conversations in neighborhoods that hadn't seen a Hamilton development executive since the company bought the land beneath their feet. She was good at this. Her authenticity connected with residents who had learned to distrust anyone in a suit. They could smell the difference between someone who cared and someone performing caring. Destiny wasn't performing. Her reports landed on Derek's desk. Detailed, data-driven, full of recommendations that would cost money but build trust. He approved every single one. And then he started showing up. Community meeting in Liberty City. Derek appeared in the back row. No announcement. No entourage. Just the billionaire in a $15,000 suit, listening to elderly residents complain about parking. Proposal review for a new housing development. Derek insisted on attending personally. Sat across the table from Destiny and asked questions about accessibility ramps and community gardens, while his eyes kept drifting to her mouth. Groundbreaking ceremony in Brownsville. Derek handed her the ceremonial shovel. Their fingers brushed. Neither acknowledged it. Corinne noticed. Be careful, she said one afternoon, appearing at Destiny's desk like a warning materialized into human form. Destiny looked up from her computer. Careful of what? Of him. Of what happens to women who get too close. We work together, that's all. Corinne's laugh was short, bitter. I've worked for Derek Hamilton for 8 years. I've seen women come and go, Beautiful women, smart women, women who thought they were different. She leaned closer. They all ended up burned. He doesn't do relationships, Destiny. He does transactions, and when the transaction is complete, he moves on. Destiny held her gaze. Then it's a good thing I'm not interested in being a transaction. Corinne studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Maybe you are different. Time will tell. She walked away. That night, Destiny video called Terrence. His face filled her phone screen, thinner than before. But his eyes were bright, his smile was real. The new treatment is working, he said. The doctor said my numbers are improving every week. Destiny pressed her hand to the screen like she could touch him through it. That's amazing, Terrence. I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you, he said. Look at you. Big office, big city. Mom would have lost her mind. Destiny laughed, but it caught in her throat. She'd be proud of both of us. Speaking of proud, Terrence grinned. When do I get to meet this boss of yours? The one you definitely don't talk about too much? I don't talk about him too much. You mentioned him 4 times in the last 5 minutes. I did not. Did too? Destiny threw a pillow at the phone. Terrence's laughter echoed through the speaker. Later that night, she stayed late at the office. A proposal needed finishing. A deadline loomed. The floor emptied around her. Lights dimmed. The city outside transformed into a galaxy of windows and streetlights. By midnight, she was alone. Or so she thought. Working late? Derek's voice came from behind her. Close, too close. Destiny's spine straightened. She didn't turn around. Proposal for the Overtown development, due tomorrow. I know. I'm the one who set the deadline. She heard him move closer, felt the heat of his body against her back. You're tense, he said. His hand brushed her shoulder. She stopped breathing. May I? She should say no. Should stand up. Should walk away. Instead, she nodded. His fingers pressed against the knot at the base of her neck. Once, twice, working the tension with a pressure that made her eyes close. You carry stress here, he murmured. I can feel it. Everyone carries stress somewhere. Where do you carry yours? Everywhere, she wanted to say. In my shoulders, in my jaw, in the space behind my ribs, where I keep all the things I'm afraid to want. But she said nothing. His hand stilled. His breath was warm against her ear. I should go, she whispered. You should. Neither moved. The moment stretched, thin as glass. Ready to shatter. His phone buzzed. A text from Marcus about tomorrow's meeting. The spell broke. Destiny gathered her things. Laptop, keys, the proposal she would finish at home. She walked to the elevator without looking at him. But in the mirrored walls, she pressed her hand to her neck where his fingers had been. The next morning, a package sat on her desk. Small. No card. No name. She opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a book, old, leather-bound, first edition. The Color Purple by Alice Walker, signed by the author. Destiny's breath caught. She had mentioned this book once. One time, at a community meeting 3 weeks ago. A passing comment about literacy programs and the stories that had shaped her. She looked toward Derek's office. He was on the phone. Back turned, giving no indication he knew she existed. But on his desk, she noticed something that made her heart stutter. A receipt from a rare books dealer in Atlanta, dated yesterday. He had flown to Georgia for a book, for her. Destiny Williams, who had promised herself she would never need anyone, felt the first crack form in the wall she'd built around her heart. When was the last time someone's simple touch left you unable to think? when the line between professional and personal started to blur so slowly you didn't notice until you were already across it. Share your experience below. And right now, someone in this story is planning betrayal. Someone Derek trusts. If you leave without subscribing, you'll miss the moment the knife goes in. You'll miss who holds it. Subscribe now. Because the next chapter changes everything, and you don't want to piece it together from someone else's reaction video. She didn't belong at a party where champagne cost more than her rent. But when Derek Hamilton looked at her across the ballroom, Destiny felt like the only woman in a room full of diamonds. The Hamilton Development Annual Charity Gala was the kind of event Destiny had only seen in magazines. The Fontainebleau Miami Beach, crystal chandeliers, an orchestra playing songs written for people who never worried about tomorrow. She stood at the entrance, suddenly aware of every flaw in her appearance. Here. Corinne appeared beside her, holding a garment bag. What's this? A dress. Emerald green. Size 6. You'll need heels to match. Destiny stared at her. I don't understand. Consider it a professional development investment. Corinne's expression softened slightly. You're seated at Mr. Hamilton's table tonight. You can't show up in department store clearance. I wasn't planning to show up at all. I'm staff, not a guest. You're whatever he decides you are. Corinne pressed the bag into her hands. The bathroom is that way. Don't make him wait. 30 minutes later, Destiny barely recognized herself. The dress was backless. Emerald silk that caught the light and turned her skin to gold. Her hair fell in waves around her shoulders. Her mother's small gold hoops in her ears. She looked like she belonged here. She felt like an imposter wearing borrowed armor. The ballroom swallowed her whole. Hundreds of guests. Politicians she recognized from television. Celebrities she'd only seen in movies. Old money examining new money with expressions that measured net worth to the decimal. And then, the crowd parted. Derek stood at the center of the room. Black suit on a blacker shirt. No tie. The fabric strained against shoulders that seemed built for carrying impossible weight. His eyes found her across the ballroom. Everything else disappeared. Ms. Williams. His voice was professional. His gaze was not. You look appropriate for the occasion. Appropriate. She raised an eyebrow. High praise. I thought so. A woman's laugh cut through the air. Sharp, practiced, designed to draw attention. Destiny turned. She was stunning. Red dress that probably cost more than Destiny's car. Blonde hair, perfect makeup. A smile that didn't reach her eyes. Derek, darling. The woman pressed a kiss to his cheek that lingered too long. You didn't tell me you'd hired a new... What is it you do again? Her eyes raked over Destiny. Found her wanting. Vivian. Derek's voice had gone cold. I didn't realize you were invited. I'm always invited. Vivian turned her smile on Destiny. I'm Vivian Ashworth, Derek's former fiancée, and you are? Destiny Williams, Community Outreach Coordinator. How quaint. The word landed like a slap. But Destiny had been slapped before. By life, by circumstance, by people who thought they could measure her worth with a glance. It's important work, Destiny said calmly. Someone has to make sure communities aren't forgotten when buildings go up. But I'm sure you understand. Philanthropy is what this gala is all about, isn't it? Vivian's smile flickered. Charming, she said. Derek always did have interesting taste. She walked away, hips swaying, heels clicking, a predator retreating to plan her next attack. I should apologize, Derek said quietly. For what? You can't control who shows up. I should have warned you. She's persistent. She's your past. Destiny met his eyes. I'm not threatened by ghosts. Something shifted in his expression. Respect, maybe, or something deeper. Dance with me. It wasn't a question. He led her to the floor. The orchestra swelled. Couples parted to make room. Derek's hand splayed across her bare back, skin against skin. Destiny stopped breathing. He pulled her closer than the waltz required. Their bodies pressed together, his heart beating against her chest. People are staring, she murmured. Let them. This isn't professional. No. His lips brushed her ear. It isn't. His hand slid lower on her back, just above the curve of her spine, possessive, questioning. You're the most beautiful woman here, he said, his voice rough. And I need you to know that I'm barely controlling myself right now. Her fingers tightened on his shoulder. Then don't, she whispered before she could stop herself. The music swelled, then stopped. They stood motionless in the center of the dance floor. Every eye in the room watching, neither caring. Someone coughed nearby. Derek released her like she was made of fire. Stepped back. The professional mask slammed into place. I should greet the donors, he said. You should. He walked away. Destiny stood in the middle of the ballroom with her heart pounding against her ribs, her skin burning where his hands had been. Later, in the powder room, Vivian found her. Enjoy it while it lasts, she said, examining her lipstick in the mirror. He collects projects, not partners. And when he's finished with you, he'll move on to the next one. Destiny met her eyes in the reflection. Then I guess we have something in common. Neither of us is here to be collected. She walked out before Vivian could respond. The gala ended at midnight. Destiny waited for her rideshare outside the hotel, Miami heat pressing against her skin, her mind replaying every second of that dance. A black Bentley pulled up. The window rolled down. Derek's voice, rough and low. Get in. She should refuse. She should remember Corinne's warning, Vivian's venom, every lesson she'd learned about men with power. Instead, Destiny opened the door and slid into the leather seat beside him. Neither spoke as the car pulled away from the hotel. But when his hand found hers in the darkness, fingers intertwining, palm pressed to palm, she knew that whatever wall she had left was about to crumble. And she was terrified to realize she didn't want to stop it. Have you ever had a moment in public that felt like the whole world disappeared, except for one person? A touch that said more than words ever could? Tell me about the time chemistry became undeniable. She had protected herself for 26 years, not from fear, but from choice. Tonight, in the penthouse of a man who had earned her trust by never demanding it, Destiny Williams chose to let go. The elevator opened directly into Derek's penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Biscayne Bay. Moonlight spilled across white furniture and dark hardwood. The silence was so complete, she could hear her own pulse. Derek didn't turn on the lights. He walked to the window, stood with his back to her, giving her space. I can take you home, he said quietly. Nothing has to happen. Nothing has to change. Destiny looked at this man, this fortress of muscle and discipline who had cracked open his past for her, who had flown to Atlanta for a book, who had held her on a dance floor like she was something sacred. She thought about all the reasons she should leave. He was her boss. She was in his debt. The power imbalance was dangerous. Her heart was already compromised. Then she thought about her mother. Gloria Williams had worked herself to death, had never taken a risk on love after Destiny's father left, had spent her entire life giving to others and keeping nothing for herself. Destiny didn't want to die with an empty heart. She crossed the room, placed her palm flat against Derek's chest, felt his heartbeat stutter beneath her fingers. "I'm not afraid," she said. His eyes searched her face, looking for doubt, finding none. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." His hand rose, cupped her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. "I haven't been with anyone in 3 years," he said. "Not since Vivian. I told myself I didn't need it, didn't want it. But then you walked into that clinic with mascara on your cheeks and fire in your eyes, and I haven't been able to think about anything else." Destiny leaned into his touch. "My virginity wasn't religious," she said. "It wasn't accidental. It was armor. Protection against a world that took too much from my mother. And now I'm tired of protecting myself from things that might be worth the risk." Derek lowered his mouth to hers. The kiss was slow at first, reverent, learning the shape of each other, the taste, the pressure. Then it deepened. His hands found the zipper at her back. He paused. "Yes or no?" "Yes." He slid the emerald dress from her shoulders. It pooled at her feet like water. She reached for his buttons. Her fingers trembled. His trembled too. The billionaire who controlled boardrooms and bent cities to his will was trembling for her. They moved to the bedroom. Moonlight streamed across white sheets. "Tell me if anything doesn't feel right," he murmured against her skin. "Tell me and I stop." She guided his hands where she wanted them. He followed her lead. Every touch was a question. Every kiss was an answer. She had expected pain. There was some. But mostly there was connection, vulnerability, the feeling of being seen completely and accepted anyway. Afterward, he held her against his chest, his heartbeat slowing beneath her ear. "No regrets?" he asked quietly. "No regrets." He pressed a kiss to her forehead. They talked until dawn. About Gloria, about his mother, about Terrence and the treatment that was finally working, about futures neither had allowed themselves to imagine. "I don't know what this is," Derek admitted as sunrise painted the windows gold. "I've never been good at this." "Neither have I. So we figure it out together?" Destiny smiled. Together. She fell asleep in his arms, safe, whole, terrified of how much she wanted this to last. But she woke to sunrise, painting the penthouse gold, Derek's arm heavy across her waist, and reached for her phone to check on Terrence. And froze. 37 text messages, 19 missed calls. Her stomach dropped as she opened the first link. A tabloid headline screamed, "Billionaire's Virgin Scheme. Hamilton caught on tape pressuring Surrogate." Beneath it, a photo of Derek entering room 7 at the fertility clinic. And below that, an audio clip. Edited, distorted, damning. Derek's voice saying words he never actually spoke. "I don't care what you have to do. Get her to cooperate." Destiny's hands shook. Derek stirred awake behind her, saw her face, grabbed the phone. His expression went from confusion to fury in 3 seconds. "This is fake," he said. "I never said this. Someone edited." His phone started ringing. Lawyers, board members, reporters. The world they'd built overnight was already crumbling. Someone had sold them out. Someone had twisted their story into a weapon. And as Derek's phone kept ringing, as Destiny's inbox filled with venom from strangers, she realized the truth. The leak came from inside Hamilton Tower. What does it mean to choose someone with your whole self? To give something you've protected not because you have to, but because you finally want to? Tell me. Have you ever experienced the difference between surrender and sacrifice? And this is the moment everything changes. For them and for the person watching from the shadows. If you're not subscribed, you're about to miss the betrayal that nearly destroys them both. Don't be the person who finds out too late. Subscribe now. The next chapter will break your heart. They woke up in love. By noon, the whole world believed he was a predator, and she was a fraud. And somewhere in Hamilton Tower, the person responsible was already planning their next move. The scandal exploded like a bomb. Every news outlet ran the story. Cable news panels debated whether Derek Hamilton was a predator or a victim. Social media dissected every frame of the clinic footage. Destiny's name trended alongside words like schemer and fraud. By 10 in the morning, Hamilton Development stock had dropped 18%. By noon, 3 major investors had demanded an emergency board meeting. By 2, Destiny was escorted from the building by HR representatives who couldn't meet her eyes. Administrative leave, they called it, pending investigation. She walked through the lobby past reporters screaming questions. Camera flashes exploding like lightning. Security guards forming a barrier that felt more like a prison escort. Her phone buzzed. Terrence. Destiny, what's happening? The insurance company just called. They're reviewing my coverage. Something about fraud allegations. Her knees buckled. She caught herself against a marble pillar, forced her voice steady. Don't worry about that. Focus on your treatment. I'll handle everything. But I promise, I'll fix this. She hung up before he could hear her crying. In the boardroom 47 floors above, Derek faced the men who wanted to destroy him to save themselves. The optics are disastrous, said Raymond Kraft, the longest-serving board member. Stock is cratering. Advertisers are pulling out. We need damage control. I agree, said Marcus Webb, his voice smooth with false sympathy. And the best damage control would be to distance yourself from this woman immediately. Issue a statement. Express regret for any misunderstanding. Terminate her employment. Derek looked at his best friend. The man he'd forgiven 5 years ago. The man he'd trusted with his company, his secrets, his life. No. Marcus blinked. Derek, be reasonable. She lied on her application. That's documented. We can frame this as she lied to save her dying brother. And the audio circulating online is doctored. Someone with access to clinic security footage edited my words to create something I never said. The room went silent. Are you suggesting, Raymond said slowly, that someone within this company leaked that footage? I'm not suggesting it. I'm stating it as fact. And when I find out who did it, there won't be enough lawyers in this country to protect them. His eyes swept the room, landed on Marcus, moved on. This meeting is over. I have a press conference to prepare. He walked out before anyone could object. That afternoon, Derek stood behind a podium. 50 cameras pointed at his face, 100 questions screaming over each other. One voice cut through the noise. Mr. Hamilton, did you coerce this woman into a sexual relationship? Derek leaned into the microphone. Destiny Williams is the most honest person I've ever met. She walked into my life with more integrity in her smallest decision than most people show in their entire careers. The room fell silent. I'm not distancing myself from her. I'm standing beside her. And when we find out who edited that audio, who leaked those recordings, who turned our private pain into public entertainment. He paused. Let the words land. There won't be enough lawyers in Florida to protect them. The room erupted. Derek walked away. That night, He found Destiny in a parking garage beneath Hamilton Tower. Level B2. Away from cameras. Away from the world that wanted to tear them apart. She stood beside her car, arms wrapped around herself, eyes red. "You should have let them fire me," she said. "Your company is falling apart because of me." "My company will survive. The question is whether we will." He moved toward her, stopped a foot away. "I don't care what they print, Destiny. I don't care what they say. You're mine, and I protect what's mine." She laughed bitterly. "I'm not a possession. No, you're a partner. You're the first person in 20 years who made me feel like something other than a transaction." He stepped closer, cupped her face in his hands. "Fight with me, not against me." Destiny grabbed his shirt, pulled him down, kissed him with desperation and defiance. "Then fight," she said against his mouth. "Fight for both of us, because I'm not running." He pressed her against his car, hands sliding down her back, heat building despite the cold concrete, despite everything falling apart. The security guard's footsteps echoed in the distance. They separated, breathing hard, eyes locked with promises. "I will find out who did this," Derek said, "and I will end them." Later that night, Destiny sat alone in her apartment, cable news playing on mute, her world collapsing in high definition. Her phone buzzed, blocked number. A text. "I know who leaked the audio. Meet me at Hamilton Tower parking garage, level B3, midnight. Come alone." She should tell Derek, should call the police. But the text included a photo, a screenshot of an email between Marcus Webb and a tabloid editor, dated 2 days before the story broke. Subject line, Hamilton's virgin surrogate. Here's everything you need. Destiny's blood ran cold. Derek's best friend, his business partner, the man who had stolen his first love 20 years ago, was now trying to steal his last chance at happiness. She grabbed her keys, her pepper spray, her desperation, and she walked into a confrontation that would either end the betrayal or end her. Have you ever been attacked for something you didn't do? Have you ever watched someone you love be destroyed by lies while you stood helpless? Drop a if you've ever had to fight for your reputation against impossible odds. Beautiful souls, we're at the breaking point. Someone is about to face judgment. Someone is about to face justice. She walked into darkness to find the truth. What she found instead was a man who had spent 20 years waiting for the perfect moment to destroy Derek Hamilton. And he wasn't finished yet. Level B3 smelled like oil and old concrete. The fluorescent lights flickered with the rhythm of a dying heartbeat. Half the bulbs had burned out years ago. Nobody came down here except maintenance workers and people who didn't want to be seen. Destiny's pepper spray felt small in her hand, as shadows stretched between parked cars like fingers reaching for her. She checked her phone. 11:58 p.m. The text had said midnight. Come alone. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Every instinct screamed that this was dangerous, stupid, the kind of decision horror movie victims made before the credits rolled. But that screenshot haunted her. Marcus Webb. Derek's best friend, selling them out to tabloids for reasons she couldn't understand. She needed to know why. Footsteps echoed somewhere to her left. Destiny spun, pepper spray raised. A figure stepped out from behind a concrete pillar. Not Marcus. Corinne Vance. Derek's executive assistant looked nothing like her usual self. Hair escaping its perfect bob. Mascara smudged beneath eyes that had clearly been crying. Blazer wrinkled. Hands trembling around a manila folder. You came alone. Corinne said. Relief cracked her professional mask. Good, because what I'm about to show you is going to make you want to burn this building down. She paused. And honestly, I'll hand you the matches. Destiny lowered the pepper spray slightly. You sent that text? The screenshot of Marcus's email? I've been gathering evidence for months. Corinne moved closer, checking over her shoulder. Ever since I noticed financial irregularities in accounts Marcus controlled, wire transfers to offshore accounts, payments to tech companies that specialize in audio manipulation. She opened the folder, handed Destiny a stack of papers. He's been planning this for years, Destiny. The leak wasn't spontaneous. It was the final phase of a 20-year revenge plot. Destiny scanned the documents. Bank statements, email printouts, screenshots of text messages. Her blood ran cold. Rebecca didn't leave Marcus for Derek. Corinne continued. She left Marcus because he went broke. His business failed 6 months before Derek's first company took off. She saw Derek succeeding while Marcus was failing. And she made her choice. So Marcus blames Derek for losing Rebecca? Marcus blames Derek for everything. For succeeding when Marcus failed. For rising while Marcus fell. For being the man Marcus always wanted to be, but couldn't become. Corinne pulled out a USB drive. This contains recordings. Marcus bragging to his girlfriend about finally ending Derek. Emails to the tabloid editor. Payment confirmations to the tech expert who doctored that audio. Everything the police will need to put him away. Destiny took the drive. Her hands were shaking. Why are you helping me? You warned me to stay away from Derek. You said every woman who gets close to him ends up burned. Corinne's expression hardened. I lost my sister to a man like Marcus. Charming on the surface, poison underneath. He manipulated her for years. Isolated her from everyone who loved her. By the time she realized what he was, she was too broken to leave. She met Destiny's eyes. I recognized the patterns in Marcus the first year I worked here. The way he gathered information, the way he positioned himself close to Derek while secretly undermining him. But I had no proof. Not until now. Destiny's phone buzzed. A text from Derek. Where are you? I need you. She read it 3 times, felt his absence like a physical ache. She thought about his hands on her skin, his voice in her ear, the way he held her like she was something precious. She typed back, trust me, I'm fighting for us. His response was immediate. Together. Whatever you're doing, we do it together. She smiled despite the darkness, despite the danger. Love really did become armor when you let it. We need to go, Corinne said urgently. Marcus has cameras everywhere. If he knows we're meeting. The lights cut out. Total darkness. Destiny's heart stopped. Then Marcus Webb's voice echoed through the concrete chamber. Destiny Williams. I was wondering when you'd start playing detective. Footsteps. Multiple sets. Moving toward her from different directions. You know what I love about parking garages? Marcus continued, his voice bouncing off walls, impossible to locate. No cameras on B3. I had them disabled years ago, just in case I ever needed privacy. Destiny's hand found her pepper spray. Her back hit cold concrete. Corinne had vanished, hopefully toward an exit, hopefully toward help. I have to admit, Marcus said, closer now. You've been more trouble than I expected. A hospital receptionist from Georgia, playing in the big leagues. It would be impressive if it wasn't so pathetic. Emergency lights flickered on, dim, red, barely enough to see. Marcus stood 20 feet away, Suit still perfect. Smile still polished. 2 security guards flanked him. Hired muscle with earpieces and no questions. "Hand over the drive," Marcus said, "and maybe we can work something out." Destiny's chin lifted. "My mother used to say that men who monologue are men who need witnesses, because they've never mattered enough for anyone to listen voluntarily." Marcus's smile flickered, and Destiny knew she'd drawn first blood. Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted was working against you the whole time? That the smile in your face hid a knife behind their back? Tell me in the comments, how did you handle the moment the mask came off? He thought he had her trapped. He thought she would beg, bargain, break. Marcus Webb was about to learn that Destiny Williams had survived worse than him, and she was done being underestimated. Marcus stepped closer. The guards moved with him. Destiny's finger found the record button on her phone through the fabric of her pocket. Pressed it. "You really thought you could save him," Marcus said, almost pitying. "A girl from Macon, Georgia, playing hero against someone who's been planning this since before you could read." "Planning what exactly?" Destiny kept her voice steady, kept him talking. "Destroying a man who considered you his best friend?" Marcus laughed. "Best friend, that's rich. Derek Hamilton was never my friend. He was my competition, my measuring stick. The constant reminder of everything I should have been." He began to pace. The guards held their positions. "Do you know what it's like to watch someone succeed while you fail? To see them build empires while your life crumbles? Derek and I started in the same place. Same neighborhood, same poverty, same desperate mothers working themselves to death." His voice turned bitter. "But he climbed out, and I didn't. Not fast enough, not high enough. And Rebecca saw the difference before I did. So this is about a woman who left you 20 years ago? This is about justice." Marcus stopped pacing. His eyes were cold. "Derek stole my life, my future, my woman, and he doesn't even know he did it. He walks around this city like he earned everything he has, like he didn't build his success on my broken back." Destiny frowned. "That doesn't make sense. How did Derek build anything on your failure?" "Because I was supposed to be the one who made it out first." Marcus's voice cracked. "I had the plan. I had the connections. I had Rebecca. And then my business failed, and his succeeded. And suddenly I was nothing, and he was everything." He stepped closer. "I spent 5 years rebuilding his trust. 5 years of being his loyal partner. 5 years of waiting for the perfect moment to take everything from him and the way he took everything from me." "He didn't take anything from you," Destiny said quietly. "Rebecca made her own choice. Your business failed because of your own decisions. Derek's success had nothing to do with your failure. Shut up. You've spent 20 years blaming someone else for your mistakes. That's not revenge, Marcus. That's delusion." His hand shot out, grabbed her throat, slammed her against the concrete wall. "The drive. Now." Destiny couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, but she could think. She thought about Derek, his strength, his protection, the safety of his arms. She thought, "I will get back to him. I will feel his hands on my skin again. This man will not take that from me." Her knee came up hard. Marcus doubled over with a grunt. The guards surged forward. Destiny raised her pepper spray, got one of them in the eyes. He screamed and staggered back. The second guard grabbed her arm, twisted. Pain shot through her shoulder, but she didn't drop the spray. She caught him across the face. He released her, cursing, clawing at his eyes. Marcus was recovering, rising, rage replacing composure. "You little—" The parking garage exploded with sound. A Bentley engine roaring, tires screaming against concrete, headlights slicing through the darkness like twin suns. The car accelerated directly toward them. Marcus and his guards dove aside as the Bentley screeched to a stop inches from where they'd been standing. The driver's door flew open. Derek Hamilton stepped out. No jacket, shirt untucked, eyes blazing with a fury that made the air itself feel dangerous. His gaze found Destiny first. "Are you hurt?" "No," she breathed. Then Derek turned to face Marcus Webb, his oldest friend, his deepest betrayer. "Run," Derek said quietly. Marcus didn't move. Derek smiled. Cold, lethal, nothing like the man Destiny knew. "I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to your guards. Because what I'm about to do to Marcus doesn't need witnesses." The guards exchanged glances. Then they ran. Have you ever faced someone who wanted to see you destroyed and refused to give them the satisfaction of your fear? Have you ever been cornered and discovered strength you didn't know you had? Drop it in the comments if you've survived someone who underestimated you. She's alone. He's coming for her. And Marcus doesn't know that Derek Hamilton is about to tear through that garage like judgment itself. If you're not subscribed, you'll miss the moment everything collides. You'll miss the rescue. You'll miss the revenge. Subscribe right now. The next chapter is the one you've been waiting for. 20 years of betrayal. 20 years of smiling in his face while twisting knives behind his back. Tonight, in a parking garage that smelled like oil and endings, Derek Hamilton collected every debt Marcus Webb owed him. The guard's footsteps faded into silence. 3 people remained. Derek advanced slowly, each step deliberate, controlled, the violence in his body leashed by something stronger than rage. Marcus scrambled backward until his spine hit a concrete pillar, nowhere left to run. "Derek, wait, let me explain. 20 years. Derek's voice was low as gravel. "I vouched for you, rebuilt your reputation, brought you into my company when nobody else would hire you, invited you into everything I created." He stopped close enough to touch. "And this whole time, you were counting down to this." Marcus's charm crumbled. The mask dissolved. What remained was something ugly, something broken. "You don't understand. You were supposed to fail. Back in Detroit, when Rebecca left, you were supposed to stay broken. Everyone who loses the woman they love is supposed to stay broken. But I didn't. No, you didn't. You kept climbing, kept winning, kept building towers that touched the sky while I was still stuck on the ground." Marcus's voice cracked. "Every time I looked at you, I saw everything I should have been. Everything Rebecca saw when she chose you over me. Rebecca didn't choose me over you. She chose success over failure. There's a difference." "Is there?" Marcus laughed bitterly. "You were poor, Derek, just like me. We came from the same dirt. But somehow you clawed your way out, and I didn't. And I've spent every day since then wondering why." Derek stared at him. "Because I worked. Because I sacrificed. Because I built something with my hands instead of waiting for someone to hand it to me." He leaned closer. "You made yourself small, Marcus. I just stopped pretending not to notice." Something snapped in Marcus's expression. He swung, a wild, desperate punch aimed at Derek's jaw. Derek caught his fist. Easy, like catching a child's tantrum. He twisted. Put Marcus on the ground with his arm pinned behind his back, face pressed against dirty concrete. "I should break every bone in your hand," Derek said calmly. "The same hands that typed emails to tabloid editors. The same hands that paid tech experts to destroy my reputation. The same hands that threatened the woman I love." Marcus whimpered. "But I won't. Because unlike you, I don't need revenge to feel powerful. Blue and red lights flooded the garage. Police sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Corinne had done her job. Derek looked up to see Destiny standing 10 feet away. Pepper spray still clutched in her hand, hair wild, eyes fierce, beautiful. "The police are coming," she said. "Corinne called them with the evidence." Derek nodded, kept Marcus pinned. "Then let's make sure they have plenty to work with." He pulled Marcus to his feet, held him by the collar as officers poured into the garage. "This man is responsible for leaking doctored audio to tabloid publications. Fraud, blackmail, conspiracy to destroy a publicly traded company. There's a USB drive in my fiancé's possession with all the evidence you'll need." The officers exchanged glances. Then one of them stepped forward with handcuffs. "Marcus Webb, you're under arrest. You have the right to remain silent." The words faded into background noise. Derek crossed the garage in 3 strides, pulled Destiny against him. His whole body shaking with residual adrenaline. She felt his heart pounding against her cheek, his arms crushing her close like he was confirming she was real. "Don't ever do that alone again," he growled into her hair. "I wasn't alone." She pressed closer. "I knew you'd come." He kissed her, hard, desperate, tasting like fear and relief and something that felt like forever. His hands roamed her back, her waist, her hips, relearning her body, confirming no harm was done. "Take me home," she said against his mouth. He didn't ask which home. They both knew. Have you ever watched karma arrive in real time? Seen someone who caused so much pain finally face consequences? Tell me about the moment justice showed up in your life, or the moment you're still waiting for. She came to him, ready to confess a complication. He met her with a question that made everything else irrelevant. 1 week after Marcus's arrest, life should have returned to normal. The scandal reversed overnight. Headlines shifted from billionaire predator to billionaire betrayed by best friend. Destiny was reinstated at Hamilton Development with a public apology and a promotion. Terrence's insurance was restored. His treatment continued without interruption. Everything was falling into place, except for the secret Destiny carried in her body. She stood in Derek's penthouse bathroom, staring at a small plastic stick in her trembling hands. 2 pink lines. She wasn't supposed to be pregnant. They had used protection. 1 night, 1 time without. 1 time was apparently enough. She pressed her palm to her stomach. Felt nothing yet. But she knew everything had shifted. Her phone buzzed. A text from Derek. "Come to Brooklyn. There's something I need to show you." An address followed. A neighborhood she recognized from her childhood. Streets her mother used to walk. Buildings her grandmother had called home. Destiny tucked the pregnancy test into her purse. This conversation could wait until she understood what was happening. She took a rideshare to Brooklyn. The address led her to a brownstone on a quiet street. 3 stories, red brick, recently renovated by the look of the windows and the fresh paint. A door opened. Derek stepped out. No suit jacket, sleeves rolled up, looking more nervous than she'd ever seen him. "What is this?" Destiny asked. "Come upstairs." He led her through the building, past apartments still under construction, past walls waiting for paint and floors waiting for polish. To the roof. Destiny climbed the final steps and stopped breathing. The rooftop garden floated above Brooklyn like a secret kept between earth and sky. String lights woven through trellises of jasmine, her mother's favorite flower. The Manhattan skyline glittered in the distance like a promise. A table for 2, set with candles. "I bought this building 6 weeks ago," Derek said, his voice rough. Before the scandal, before everything fell apart. Because I wanted to build something in the neighborhood your mother loved, for the woman her daughter became. Destiny's eyes burned. Derek. He reached into his pocket. I was going to wait. I had a whole timeline planned. But then I almost lost you in that garage, and I realized timelines are for people who think they have forever. He sank to one knee. I don't want to waste another second pretending I don't know exactly what I want. He opened the box. A ring caught the light. Simple, elegant. A stone the color of the emerald dress she'd worn the night everything changed. Destiny Williams, I'm not asking you to be mine. I'm asking if we can be each other's. Tears streamed down her face. Yes, she whispered. Yes, of course yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger, rose, pulled her into his arms. They kissed until the city lights blurred. Then Destiny pulled back. There's something I need to tell you. Whatever it is, it can wait. It really can't. She reached into her purse, pulled out the pregnancy test, handed it to him. Derek stared at the 2 pink lines. He went still. The silence stretched. Destiny's heart hammered. Then his hand moved to her stomach, palm flat, reverent. You're serious? 2 pink lines, serious. His laugh was wet, disbelieving, triumphant. We were going to do this clinically. Contracts and procedures. Science instead of... Life had other plans. He kissed her again, softer now, like she was suddenly made of something sacred. Better plans, he whispered against her lips. They stayed on that rooftop until dawn, talking about futures, about nurseries and names, about a family built not from transactions, but from choice. If it's a girl, Destiny said softly, her head on his chest, I want to name her Gloria. Derek's arms tightened around her. Gloria, he repeated. And it sounded like a prayer. Have you ever had life surprise you with something you didn't know you were ready for, only to realize you'd been ready all along? Tell me about the moment your plans got rewritten into something better. 1 chapter left. One final piece of this story that will either make you believe in destiny or leave you questioning everything. If you've come this far without subscribing, you're risking missing the ending that ties every thread together. Subscribe now. You didn't come this far to miss how it ends. She began this story willing to sell her body to save her brother. She ends it giving herself freely to a man who taught her that destiny isn't something you trade. It's something you trust. 1 month before the wedding, a letter arrived. No return address, no note, just a photograph. Destiny stared at the image with trembling hands. Gloria Williams, 30 years old, standing beside a hospital bed at Detroit General. The patient was a young woman, weak, recovering. Derek's mother. But there was someone else in the frame. A man standing behind Gloria, his hand on her shoulder, his face unmistakable even decades younger. Derek's father. The father, Derek said, had abandoned them before he was born. A single line was typed beneath the photo. Some debts are inherited. Destiny's world tilted. She showed Derek that night. I don't understand, he said quietly. My father left before I was born. My mother never talked about him. I assumed. Maybe what you assumed was wrong. They hired a private investigator, pulled hospital records from Detroit General, found documents that rewrote everything Derek thought he knew about his past. Clarence Hamilton hadn't abandoned his family. He had struggled with severe depression during Derek's mother's pregnancy, had checked himself into the psychiatric ward at Detroit General after a breakdown. Gloria Williams had been his nurse. She had worked with him for 3 months, helped him through the darkest period of his life, convinced him to stay alive long enough to meet his son. Clarence had been discharged 2 weeks before Derek was born. He had been present for the first 2 years of Derek's life. Then he died. Construction accident, faulty scaffolding, a company that cut corners to save money. Derek's mother had never told him the truth. Maybe she couldn't bear to. Maybe she thought the lie was kinder than explaining that his father had died trying to provide for them. Gloria saved him. Derek whispered, staring at the records. She saved my father so he could become my father. So I could exist at all. The letter had been sent by Marcus's girlfriend. A final attempt at sabotage. She had found the photo among Marcus's research files. He had been digging into Gloria for years, looking for leverage. And she had twisted an innocent truth into implied scandal. But the scandal never came, because there was nothing scandalous about a nurse saving a patient's life. There was nothing shameful about a man fighting his demons. There was only love, sacrifice, and a legacy of ordinary heroism that connected 2 families across decades. The wedding took place on the rooftop garden in Brooklyn, the same rooftop where Derek had proposed, now transformed into a cathedral of flowers and light. Below them, the neighborhood Gloria Williams had loved spread out like a blessing. Terrence walked Destiny down the aisle. His hair finally growing back, his smile matching hers. Remission, the doctors called it. Miracle, everyone else said. Derek stood at the altar in a black suit, but this time his hands weren't clenched in control. They were open, waiting, trembling slightly as she approached. The officiant spoke about destiny, about threads connecting lives across decades, about Gloria Williams and the legacy of ordinary heroism. When Derek said his vows, his voice broke. Your mother saved my father so he could become my father. My mother raised me alone so I could become someone worthy of her sacrifice. And you walked into a clinic ready to give everything for your brother, and somehow gave me everything instead. He took her hands. I don't know what we did to deserve this, but I'm going to spend every day earning it. Destiny's vows were simpler. You saw me when I couldn't see myself. You believed in me when I had given up. You didn't save me, Derek. You just refused to let me believe I needed saving. She squeezed his hands. I choose you. Today. Tomorrow. Forever. The wedding night unfolded slowly. Candles flickered across the penthouse. The city sparkled beyond windows. They undressed each other without urgency. They had forever now. 1 year ago, Destiny whispered, I was terrified of being touched. And now? Derek asked, his lips tracing her collarbone. Now I can't imagine being anywhere but here. He worshipped her changing body, the slight swell of pregnancy, the evidence of their future growing between them. You're carrying our child, he murmured against her skin. Our choice, our love, our beginning. Afterward, tangled together, her head on his chest, his hand on her stomach, they talked about the future, about nurseries and first steps, about bedtime stories and family dinners, about a foundation they were building together, the Gloria Williams Center for Community Health, breaking ground in 3 cities next spring. What if it's a boy? Derek asked. Terrence, Destiny said without hesitation. After my brother. And if it's a girl? She lifted her head, met his eyes. Gloria, after the woman who saved us both before we even existed. Derek pulled her closer, his arms tightening around her like he would never let go. Gloria, he repeated. And it sounded like the beginning of everything. She had walked into that clinic 1 year ago, ready to trade her body for her brother's life. A sacrifice she believed was her only option. But Derek Hamilton saw what she couldn't. Her worth existed beyond transaction, beyond desperation, beyond everything the world had taught her to accept. He didn't save her. He simply refused to let her believe she needed saving. And in doing so, he created space for her to save herself. Now, with his ring on her finger, his child in her womb, and her mother's legacy finally complete, Destiny Williams knew the truth. Some stories are written before we're born. We just have to live long enough to read them. So what would you do if someone saw your worth before you believed in it yourself? Would you run? Or would you build something that lasts? Comment below with what you would have done in Destiny's shoes. And tell me which moment in this story hit you the hardest. If this story touched your heart, hit that subscribe button. Share it with someone who needs to believe in second chances. And remember, beautiful souls, the most powerful love doesn't rescue you from your life. It recognizes the strength that's been there all along. I'm Mr. Daniel, and I'll see you in the next story. If you made it this far and you're still not subscribed, I have to ask, what are you waiting for? Stories like this don't come around often. The next one might change your life the way this one changed Destiny's. Hit subscribe. Turn on notifications. Because you don't want to miss what's coming next.